of this night, but thank you very much. Bring it up for Jasmine.
Hello, everybody. Did you enjoy the film? Yes. Okay. I want to hear from one person in the room what impacted you the most about this film that you just watched. Wanda Sykes. Okay. Period. That's all we need. Retweet. Thank y'all so much for coming to be with us, to spend time with us. We try to do everything we can at the Hip Hop Caucus to show the love that we have for this work, not only in the products that we make, in the way that we show up in the community, but creating moments like this where we create community amongst one another. So you're a part of that community now. You're stuck with us. That's what we like to tell people every single time you come into one of these moments. And so this film is more than just about talking about community. It's about showing people the issues at hand that is across the nation. Because one thing about climate change is that climate does not care about your zip code. And so one thing that we have to relate to every single person that not only watches the film but enters the work of the Hip Hop Caucus is that if it can be this community, it can be your community. It can be anybody's community. And so we are at a crisis and a pivotal moment, and we don't have any more time. So one thing that we like to announce is that we need to start sharing this message more. We need other people to understand the urgency of these issues and to take action on these issues. And so the Hip Hop Caucus recently launched this week the availability of this film to anyone and everyone that wants to show it in their community. So, starting today, you can do a community screening of this film, whether it's in your house, it's at your bestie's house, whether it's at church, a venue that you want to have it at, it doesn't matter. If your role tonight, if you feel impacted by this film and you also want people to hear this message and to take action on these issues now, sign up today, text screening at 79591. You're going to text screening to 79591. So you're going to text screening to what number? That's what I like to hear. Thank y'all so much for being a part of today.
All right, she's passed me back the mic, and I ain't even on the script for the program tonight. But since I got the mic, Jazz, we're just going to go ahead. We're going to bring up our panelists, and we're going to bring up first our extraordinary moderator for the evening, our CEO and president, Reverend Yearwood. And hopefully I don't forget anybody as I'm not on the script, but we also want to bring up our director of this wonderful film that put it all together, put the sauce and the spice together, our COO, Liz Havstad. And also somebody that's already standing up, a champion, Brooklyn in the house, UPROSE Elizabeth Jean-Pierre. Also, it's two extraordinary people that, I love so dearly. Those that you saw in the film, that was one of the first community groups that we reached out to that was actually in the community, because one of the things about the Hip Hop Caucus, we don't fly in and take over. We walk in and ask permission to be in the community. And we got that permission from Teams with a Purpose and Mama D and my brother Malik. So welcome to the stage. Give it up for them, y'all. So I am going to relinquish this mic and turn it over to Reverend Yearwood. Let's give him another round of applause.
So we're going to start. First of all, did y'all enjoy that? Yeah, that was powerful, right? So I was telling the folks, hopefully we'll be creating more films at Hip Hop Caucus just like that. So let me actually start with Liz, who actually directed this. So shout out to Liz. So Liz, what inspired you to create a film centered around environmental justice in Norfolk? And yeah, that's actually a good start.
Good evening,
I'm not
everyone.
sure if your mic is on.
Is it on?
There it is. Yeah.
Is it good? Is it good?
Yep.
Okay. First, I want to shout out Elijah Kareem, who's our director of photography.
Yeah.
He's why the film was as beautiful as it was, which is phenomenal. And Drew Vo, our editor, who was brilliant.
Yeah.
And a phenomenal group of comedians who wrote some phenomenal scripts for Wanda Sykes. But so many creatives put into this, which goes to your question. Like, I had some master plan and idea of like, oh, this story has to be told. You know, I went into it with some, I knew exactly what was gonna happen. And really the truth of this project is Hip Hop Caucus, we do storytelling, but we do organizing. And in Virginia, the state legislature gets reelected every year, which is, I don't even know how you do annual elections. And so it was 2019, and we were mobilizing voters and working on climate justice as an issue to talk about as we are mobilizing voters, and we were organizing a comedy show, a stand-up comedy show, right in St. Paul at the Addicts Theater, this historic, amazing venue. And we were actually filming some content that was just meant to be interstitials that played in between the stand-up acts. And it was Rev, actually, while he was there with our team working on it, and he called, and he's like, yeah, like, there's a bigger story here. There's a much bigger story here. And we proceeded to make that stand-up special and have those interstitials, but we kept filming, and we kept working on it for a few years. And so the project really, the story emerged out of organizing. We approached the filmmaking with organizing principles, and we're approaching the distribution with organizing principles. And so it wasn't some mastermind thing on my part. It was following the process, and this is where it led us.
Oh, thank you, Liz. I want to give a shout out to Liz too, because the caucus turned 20 years. And Liz has been with the Hip Hop Caucus for 18 years. So that's such an important element. I want to put to this side, I actually think there's, well, everybody on stage was a star, so to speak. And they just jumped off the screen. Obviously, Mama D and Malik, obviously Wanda. But when I've gone around to the screenings, the one thing people who just kind of like just feel is obviously Elizabeth Yampier. It's just that sage, that wisdom. And so I just want to ask you this question here. Environmental justice often intersects with racial and socioeconomic issues. So how do you think we should be highlighting these intersections, not only in this film, but beyond? And why is it important for us to address them?
Ashe, everyone.
Shay.
Modubwe. First, thank you for having me here on stage with you and being in community with you. And those of you who are not from here, welcome to New York City, to the belly of the beast. I'm here from Brooklyn. So happy to be in this space with you today. You know, when I talk about environmental justice and its genesis of where it started, I often talk about how it started in the slave quarters, that it started with the extraction of our land, our labor, our bodies, when we were first put in positions where we had little access to good food, no health care, when our ancestors really had to engage in doing everything necessary to survive. And so people like talking about climate change like it started in the Industrial Revolution, but I think that environmental racism started back then, back when literally our bodies, when we came through the mid-Atlantic trade, and the imbalance of our ecosystems begins there. So when you talk about environmental justice, people, environmentalists, climate activists, are really conveniently like talking about it in a very siloed way. We've always talked about where we live, pray, play, where we do all the things that we need to do to survive and thrive. And so it's deeply intersectional. It is multidimensional in the sense that we need to deal with it from every aspect, from faith, from our traditions that honored Mother Earth, from our respect of our ancestral knowledge that really has been about living literally in balance. And so where we are today is dealing with it the same way, right? We don't get to choose between fighting against extreme weather events or fighting against extreme policing. Literally, our right to breathe is what's at stake. My family from the South Bronx, from the Boogie Down, the birth of hip hop, to Brooklyn, to the BK, have had my parents both die, one from lung cancer and the other one from an asthma attack. And I had a bilateral pulmonary embolism where I got to the hospital with 5 minutes to spare. And the only thing that I have in common with all these folks is that I was born and raised in an EJ community. So it means we need to think about health. It means that when we're thinking about the future, we need to think about climate adaptation, mitigation, and resilience, and how that becomes a path for a green economy. It means that we need to think about education and creating popular education so our people are able to learn all the different disciplines that are necessary to address this complex crisis that was put on us. And so there's no other way of thinking about it. I don't know if I've answered your question, but I wanted to make sure that we understand that this was something that was imposed on us and something that we're dealing with, that we have solutions, and that the path to climate justice is local. And so I want to thank all of you for being here and you for the opportunity for giving me the mic. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So I guess when you come to a screening, you're supposed to get some fun facts, right? You're supposed to get things that, you don't quite see in the film. And so I'm a very spiritual person. And in my faith, I believe that, you have to have something to pull on besides yourself. I don't think you can do this work if you are pulling on yourself, because you become bitter, jaded, and cynical. So one of the things, coming from Louisiana and New Orleans, was one of the fun facts was, and you don't hear this, but you're going to hear it now, is that after, one of the reasons I wanted to make sure, as Liz said, to do this film was I had, in New Orleans, my Mama D. And so Mama D, who lived on Derjawan Street in the 7th Ward, was an amazing person. Now, I gotta say this, if you see a picture of Mama D from New Orleans and you see a picture now of Mama D from Norfolk, they literally look like the same person. I mean, beautiful, great dreadlocks, same shape, same demeanor, almost like twins. And the reason that struck me is because Mama D, when the storm was coming, did not leave. And she could have. She was the first woman to lead the NAACP in New Orleans. She could have left the community, but she refused to leave, primarily because her neighborhood had a lot of senior citizens who lived in that part of the 7th Ward. And the reason I bring this up is because when Hurricane Katrina hit, the unthinkable began to happen. Mama D began to see a number of these senior citizens floating down the street. And so Mama D and her son will go out there and catch her neighbors and tie them to the tree. And when they asked her, Mama D, why did you risk and you would that? Because she said, those are my neighbors. I could not allow them just to float away. And so in that inspired me so much, because I realized it's the power of this black woman who was literally tying her and going through something we should never go through, tying your neighbors to a tree because of the climate crisis. So when I got to Norfolk and they said there's a Mama D, And then I looked at her. It looked just like my Mama D. And I was just stunned by that. And I told her that. And then finally, I didn't show her a picture of Mama D for a while. I let filming take place. And then in that scene you saw there where she's crying is when I finally revealed to her the picture of Mama D from New Orleans. And then she looked at it and said, it looks like her. But the spirit of that powerful black woman willing to sacrifice themselves is literally the same person you see on the stage, Mama D. So, Mama D, I guess with that, you know, what is the message you hope that viewers take from seeing this film?
Thank you so much, Rev, for those words and for connecting me to your Mama D. Her picture's on my refrigerator right next to my mother's, and those two look even more like than I to her, so I know we're family. I hope I answer your question, but this is the third time I get to see it. This is my third screening, and each time it hits me in a different way. And today, when I watched it, and when you spoke about how people from our community will develop land and will put their sweat and blood and talent and everything into creating something to hold our community up, to feed our community, to clean the pollution from the air, to prevent the flooding, which is what we have done and what Malik, as a, I don't know, you almost got 20 years in, but as a 11-year-old was when he said he wanted that space to make that garden, and now sitting here as a young man that's passing it forward to other young people. In that moment, I really thought about what you said is true, and I didn't realize that when you interviewed me, and I'm so proud of the work we've all done. But now I'm seeing the government, the city, we have the lease and we have a process, and for the first times, now it's way more developed than what is in the film. And we have more trees, it's just more beautiful, but we did this. And now, instead of coming through us to use the space, it was a community-led thing. Well, this is really our land, so we can, and so the realization that this work, this climate justice work that we came to organically to give us what we needed in the moment through the voice of a young person, I see so much more profoundly the connection to poverty and racism, and like that I never felt used in that situation. I always felt like we were ahead of the game because we were creating something for us. Our young people were showing who they are and what they can do. We were changing the environment and being the example, and the plan was to get that land for us. And in this moment, I'm having another reality that we have to confront, but I'm certain with the young people that are taking the lead in our organization now, I'm stepping down as the leader and they're stepping up because that's the way the process should work, that they will help fight the fight to keep the land for the people who built it. And the film really tells so many stories. And for me in this moment, that was what landed on me the most, that hearing you say those words and me realizing that that is happening. Because the first time I heard it, I thought that is happening to someone else, but we're getting this land. And now I'm seeing, no, you develop and we will take.
Yeah, please. I'm sure you want to respond to that.
When I was a young young woman, and we were fighting. Okay, and we were fighting against the bombing of Vieques, which is an archipelago of Puerto Rico. And we were here in the United States fighting the bombing of Vieques. I would ask, and these were my mentors. These were young lords and Black Panthers that were training me, right? I said, so what's the plan B when we win? And they weren't listening to me because I was a woman, I was young, I was cute. All the reasons why you would marginalize a young woman. And I said, but what's the plan B when we win? And they focused on the winning. And the thing that happened, and I knew it was going to happen, fast forward, is we win, and developers drop into Vieques. They start developing the island. A bunch of white folks move into Vieques and have meetings without the native people who live there. My husband likes to say that we are the tree shakers and the privilege are the jelly makers. And so whenever we are doing anything that has to do with reclamation, reclaiming the land, reclaiming what we have a right to have, we need to always have a plan B. Because what they do is based on how they value our lives. And so our lives have always been put there to build, to create, to fix, to clean, to do that stuff, so that other people can take advantage of our labor.
Amazing, amazing. Testing 1, 2. So, Malik, I guess really, I mean, Teams with a Purpose, but also you. I mean, you have an interesting role because of the garden. You just heard Mama D. There's an ending in this which goes into you make it quite clear that if this is happening in your community, you know, make sure you take control. After now, you've seen this film a couple of times as well. What are your thoughts? And also, I just want to say to you, man, one, you're looking sharper in the border health. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? But it actually is funny because I always get a kick out of seeing these films to see people kind of, when you see the film, and kind of grow up before your eyes a little bit in that little short time. And so it's just a blessing to see you just, you know, in this. So what are your thoughts?
Thoughts about the film? I love it. I love that we get to see the perspective of the people who are in the situations. A lot of films, documentaries, talking about our people don't talk to our people, so I appreciate it. Hearing from the actual people, from the community members saying what's going on, how can we fix it, what I've been going through, because it's us, so we should talk about us and tell our narrative. And yeah, so I appreciate the film for giving us the voice, the power to tell our narrative, to say what's going on. Yeah. Also, it gives young people a way to see how things can be different, because the film is done so beautifully, with the jokes and the interviews and everything, but it's also giving us a lesson. It's also showing us the message, and that's what I do at Teams with a Purpose all day. That's my job, to make sure our young people know how to use their voice, how they use their voice, use their talents to create change. So I'm glad that the film is showing them and giving them another example as well.
No, thank you. Give it up. Give it up. No. That's when that's called a mic drop. When you have that reaction, you get used to it. And then you actually drop the mic. So I want to just thank everybody. I want to ask Liz to just one last thing as Liz to close us out on this. I want to first of all thank you all for coming tonight. Yeah, give yourselves a round of applause. And I want to let you know that the screenings are very important. Please show this film over the particularly this next October. Show it. It's out there for you to show it. And we want our people to be transformed. Liz, I want to ask you this as a final question. When I came into the movement, so good to see other folks who are here, have been around for a while. documentaries and production was almost like an add-on. What's next for the caucus in regards to creating content? And that's our last question, so take us out. Testing, 1, 2.
What's next for the caucus is getting the mics to work, one step at a time. So storytelling to build power through narrative, right, is not new to movement building. But the way that we tell stories now in everyday life through video to feature film and everything in between is vastly different than it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, or in our previous movements. And at the caucus, we've been producing content, producing films, podcasts, music, all these sorts of things. We've also been working on influencing the entertainment industry and influencing Hollywood on the types of storytelling that they do. And that's important work also. But I've recently come to the conclusion, will that work to try and influence the entertainment industry and how they tell stories, what the stories are that they tell and those sorts of things from a climate justice perspective is essential. The traditional process of filmmaking is built on a fundamentally flawed and problematic approach. And I actually think the answer is less to try and convince the film industry to figure out how to tell responsible, true, real stories, and it's to empower organizers to become filmmakers. And for, in that way, filmmaking, ways of filmmaking to be, as I opened with, grounded in organizing principles first and foremost. And then we get the stories that we need and we get the stories that we want. So I think that's part of what's next for the caucus. I also think, I don't know why this is coming to me, but I'm a big believer in stupid is as stupid does. Good is as good does. Evil is as evil does. And in that way, everyone has a choice every single day and every single moment to either be a part of the problem or be a part of the solution. And watching this film tonight after like the bazillionth time and knowing the election that we have coming up and seeing all the different folks in the film playing their roles, doing their jobs, the jobs that they're elected to do, the jobs that they sit in city government for, all these sorts of things. Good is as good does, evil is as evil does. And it's a choice every single day. And that's why we have to be so aware of who we're electing, but even more so aware of what they're doing after we elect them. And I'm excited about the next film content projects the caucus does, but I also want to make sure this film gets such a deep and profound life and that the conversations in this film go far and wide. And I think that's also like what we're focused on right now and what has to happen.
Thank you. Thank you. I was going through everything on mic. Thank you all so much. Saturday, please join us in Brooklyn. Hold on. Let us know where we got to go.
Yeah. So the cool thing about this film is that in the midst of despair, there was joy, there was laughter. And so that is a segue to what is happening in Brooklyn on Saturday, September 28th. At 2 p.m. at Pier 4, 58th Street in Sunset Park, where we're going to have Bombayo, Sonido Costeño, Taina Sili, Flaco Navaja, and M1 from Dead Prez on the stage. And we're going to have a bunch of activities. It's called Climate Justice Lives Here, because climate justice lives in community. And if you want some flyers, Anicia, raise your hand. We got Terrence, we got Rico over here, and they've got all the lit so that I could see you Saturday in Brooklyn, because we're going to close down Climate Week by reminding all these people who flew in that it happens in the hood. So, gracias.
See you on Saturday. Thank you for coming out.